What's going on, everyone? Happy Wednesday, and I know a little bit of shuffle, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. You got to roll with it, but hope you guys are having a great day. Hopefully you're getting over the hump. We got this week going with a big start on Tuesday. Darren O'Day had, why am I blanking? Jim Duquette, friend of the show, friend of the program. Yeah, Jim Duquette. I compared him to Ludacris. How could I forget that? But we talked a lot of baseball yesterday. Don't worry, we're talking a lot of baseball today. MLB Pipeline's Jim Callis is going to join us to talk a little bit about the MLB Draft, some prospects, what we could expect here as we approach the deadline as well. And then let's see what else we have. Oh, well, there's a name that a lot of Orioles fans will remember. And I was hoping he's going to be a Baltimore Oriole for his entire career. But Nick Markakis will join us. He's going to be down coaching at the Futures game. So that'll be great to see his insights. He's definitely one of Birdland's favorite over the last 2 decades. And then finally, we got to touch on a little bit of football. Why? Because Pro Football Talks Mike Florio is going to join the show. He's got a new book out. And also, I know he has some opinions about, say, the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I'm not alone today like I was yesterday. So there is Brad behind the scenes, which I know he's going to be doing his thing. I think who might pop up on the screen as a wild entity. The one and only Zach Bollinger. Bolly, you here? Oh, there he is.
Of course I'm here. Great to be back. And what a show. I mean, Markakis, Florio. I mean, we're going to be a hell of a show. I'm excited to be back talking ball on the Ryan Ripken show. Where else would you rather be? Where else would you rather be?
There's a few places I could think of, Zach, that where I'd rather not be. Oh no, I only want to be here. Who am I kidding? Especially with the guest list, especially with what we have to talk about. And I know the Orioles lost last night, right? When you think the World Series back on, I actually got a text from Brad. World Series is back on. And then the World Series is back off, 2 innings later. And that's baseball, right? And that's kind of a microcosm of what's gone wrong with the Orioles. It's not just starting pitching, which we know we've talked about. The Orioles have games like last night that you feel you should put away and win, and they don't. Whammy, they lose the opening game against the Mets. We'll talk about that a little bit more later on, because I know a lot of people have some opinions, and you guys can express a lot of those opinions on Kevin and Zach Reacts. Zach, I'm pretty sure, though, to end that, it was pretty colorful with that loss last night.
Yeah, people were really happy about it. People were super stoked about, coming in. And I've said it before. There's one thing when this team just say they take a step forward and 2 steps back, but it's the fact that they keep taking that step forward. They win 3 straight games. Then they go for that second step forward, and they're up 6-2 in the 8th versus the Mets, who just took a series against the Yankees. So you're like, okay, like Brad texted you, is World Series back on? Like, is this finally the time where they decide they're going for it? They're making that run, and just when you're about to get that step, they trip and fall 3 back. And you're like, there it is again. There it is again. I mean, Ryan, it's baseball, but it's the heartbreaking aspect of it where in about a 20-minute window, from when, I guess 25, from when Jackson hit that homer to make it 6-2, and Pete Alonso hit that second homer for the Mets of the inning, first 4 batters, to then tie it 6-6. There was that point where you were like, okay, like this can happen, and then it changes so fast.
Yeah, I mean, baseball's baseball. It's great. It stinks. Everything all at once. And it's unpredictable above everything else. You play long enough, you're around it long enough. That's why I say nothing surprises me really anymore. Or I guess I should say shocks, because I will get surprised by when moves are made, but nothing shocking, especially on the field. What happens? Like I said, it's a simple term. It's just baseball. That's just the way it goes. Well, let's move into a few topics here, Zach. And this is brought to you, this episode, by our friends over at Merit Clubs, which they at the moment might be going over there to do a show tomorrow. It's hot.
Ooh.
Maybe I'll dive into the pool. Maybe I'll go get a drink at the upstairs Can Rooftop Bar. Maybe I'll go and work on my bar skills. Might be all the above, but I think that's the plan for tomorrow. Shout out Merit Clubs. And if you guys are looking for anything Merit Club related and you're thinking about a day pass, you should check out meritclubs.com. I got the banner right here. 3, 2, Zach, under 10 seconds.
Oh, I said boom.
Oh, it's right there. Check out meritclubs.com for more information. And Sean, we're going to have him back on to talk about some myths when it comes to working out. And I guess what to eat, because people always think they have the right fad diet. And I'll be honest, there's more ways than one to be successful with whatever the hell you're trying to accomplish. Look at this right now. Zach Body's a Temple, looking good. The Waterloo Blackberry Lemonade. So cheers to you.
Fantastic. Waterloos are good. I'm a big Waterloo guy. I've only had a few, but I'm a fan.
I think Waterloos are better than everything else except LaCroix's. Like, those are the two for me. Spindrifts, right? Are they Spindrifts? That's what it is?
I'm not sure. I'm a LaCroix guy. I'm LaCroix. I'm Team LaCroix.
Had one, taste like ass. Not a fan. Not a fan. They say they have real juice. They have more sugar. And I just don't think they taste as well. And this isn't a Waterloo ad, by the way. This is just my opinion. I'm sorry if it's controversial, but what's also been controversial, Zach? How about the ABS umpire systems, right? Yeah. We see it on a day-to-day basis. Umpires, why I want to give them credit, it's a really hard position to be in to get a lot of the calls right. There are a lot of calls that they should get right that seem pretty obvious, past the line of the trial or the error line, whatever you want to consider it. I'm losing my train of thought on the actual word. It'll come back to me. But you guys know what I'm talking about. The ABS system, while imperfect, is hoping to get rid of those more costly mistakes. And it's just reported that the ABS system is going to be placed in the MLB All-Star Game. And Zach, the reason why we're bringing this up is because the minor leagues, it gets tested. All the things that you've seen implemented in the big leagues have come from the minor leagues. When it's put in the All-Star Game at the biggest stage, it's coming to baseball here very soon. And this is going to be the first pace on there. It's not a matter of if anymore, Zach. It's when. But I am intrigued that it's going to be debuted here in about a week.
Yeah, I think intrigued is the perfect word for it because, listen, there are going to be growing pains. I saw Jeff Passan tweet about it earlier today. He pretty much said this is going to be very similar to when we had the pitch clock. There's going to be a whole section or a whole sector of fans, and it could maybe be a majority of fans that are going to be against this. We talk about, you need the ABS system. There are going to be fans who don't like bringing the robo-ump, quote-unquote, into the game. But I think overall this is going to be good for the game. I think it's intriguing because we saw it happen in spring training this year, correct? And then disappeared. Now you're just like, it feels like they keep on soft launching it. Like you said, it's going to happen. It's not if, it's when. I think they'd already said it probably won't be next year. Maybe 27 is that goal year for ABS system. But when you look at everything, it's one of those things where it's going to take getting used to. There's going to be growing pains. There are going to be things that happen in a big moment where someone challenge, there's a big strike three. People are celebrating challenge. Oh, we're taking it away. It's a ball. People are going to be like, oh, that took away from the moment, whatever. There are going to be growing pains. Remember, Ryan, it was like the first week in spring training for why am I blanking on what we were just talking? Not ABS, the pitch timer clock. It was bases loaded. I believe Rafael Devers was at the plate. Bases loaded, tie game, bottom 9, full count, strikes out because of a pitch timer violation. Everyone's like, okay, that's a way to ruin this game. That's a way to just, the climax of the game, the biggest moment. It's like, pitch count violation. They're going to be growing pains when ABS first comes in, without a doubt. But I think in the long run, it will be better for the game. Just very intriguing that there's like, hey, let's do it at the All-Star game to get more eyes on it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's always calculated, right? And the one thing, because I see you, Mouse Talker, saying an umpire making a bad call changes the entire complexion of an at-bat, and more importantly, a game. You got to get it right. That's the most important thing. And I agree. You want to try to get it right or as close to being right as possible. But I do wonder about how the configuration of the ABS system is going to work. Because I do think that that's still in question in some cases, right? Everyone's got a different strike zone. And I know they're saying, well, it's easy. You can just change it and monitor it. Well, not necessarily. And also, I'll argue on calls that players might think are balls are actually strikes. Like, there's going to be a little bit of this understanding. I know it's been tested a lot in the minor league, so the guys that have recently come up are definitely going to have more of a sense and a feel. But the players that haven't been, and they've been in the big leagues for 8, 9, pushing 10 years, right? It's an overall adjustment period. But at the end of the day, you don't want an umpire on a missed call to be a reason why that game is being flagged now. It's good for publicity, right? There's no such thing as bad press, apparently. But you don't want the game to be remembered by one call. You want to be remembered for what the greatness that happened on the field. That's the biggest thing. When you look back at moments in history, if it's ABS system is what we're talking about, but replay. And they're still not getting replay right all the time, Zach, right? Like, it's still
which is incredible, by the way. Some of the replays that they over or don't overturn, replay is a whole other thing. But I think you nailed it when you were kind of talking about, like, this is going to be a very uniform strike zone for the ABS system. Where that can come into play is if an ump is calling the low pitch a strike all game, it might not be technically a strike by the ABS system, by the book. It might not be a strike. But Ryan, how many times have we talked about if an ump's going to have a big zone, be consistent. Like, if it's consistently a big zone or consistently a small zone for both sides, then it's like, okay, that's the game today. There's a big zone, there's a small zone. And if it's consistent, that just happens. Where it could get unfortunate is if ump has a big zone all night, he's like, hey, people are getting the low pitch. And, pitchers are hitting the low pitch right below the zone the whole night to get the strike. That's a strike that night. And then suddenly it gets down to the late inning. Maybe one goes low for strike 3 on, a 3-2 count. Batter goes, no. It might be the exact same place that's been called a strike all game, but if they go to the uniform ABS by the exact rule, just missed a few centimeters low. It's a walk, even though that's been a strike all game. I think that's what I'm intrigued by the most is you brought up every umpire has their different zone. So could something that has been called a strike all night in baseball today, we'd be like, that's just his zone because no umpire's got the exact same zone. Then I think it could become an issue of maybe the guy could be consistently giving that pitch all night, but comes to a big moment, you challenge that and it's outside the zone. If you're the pitcher, you're sitting there like, I mean, what do you want me to do? You've called that a strike all game. I hit my spot, batter's getting rewarded.
Yep, and it's just one of the many things that we'll continue to follow. And as a hitter, though, you always like to know what the zone's going to be every single time you step up to the plate. And if this is going to help, which it should, that would make everyone feel better, but it's going to come like every change. There is going to be some trial and error. And that's actually the poll that's out right now, Zach, right on YouTube. Vote on it, guys. Should the ABS system be introduced into the MLB currently? And we might have to double check it since it's been out, but 86% said yes. So a lot of people are saying, hey, get the call right the first time, not the next time. And maybe that will stop the little, the makeup call scenario, by the way. And I'll be honest, when I played, Zach, makeup calls never made me feel good because I felt like it never worked in my favor, like in the long run, right? When people get upset about, I tell pitchers, when they be like, oh, you got a broken bat hit that, that fell in your favor. I go, buddy, great.
Needed that.
Let me have that one because I've hit rockets off you and I get out. Or let's have one more thing. Tom behind the dish right there is calling everything for you, and he's shoving it right up there, and I'm going back to the dugout. And you're sitting there going, this game stinks, but I love it. That's why I keep playing it. It's moments like that that make baseball so great, but also it's a reminder it is so damn hard. You know what also is extremely hard to accomplish in the game of baseball, Zach?
What?
You want me to go ahead? How about an inside the park home run? And then let's take it one step further. One step further, how about a walk-off inside the park home run? I don't know if you all saw this yesterday, but the San Francisco Giants walked off last night on a 3-run inside the park home run. Now, I don't know if we have the clip itself that we can pull up, and it might not be really worth it.
Yeah.
Maybe if we have time, but ball ricochets off the top of the right center field wall and then kicks away, whammy, no play at the plate. That's how far this thing kicked off the brick. And it is pandemonium. Maybe we'll circle back at the end, Zach, because I think it's a really, really unique play. You don't see it very often. And there was nothing spectacular about it. It was just that the ball got mushed and it was hit so damn hard that it bounced in a place that you didn't think it could. No one, the center fielder, right fielder couldn't have predicted it. And the Giants win the game. So,
yeah, I mean, the guy I feel the most bad for is Lawrence Butler for the Athletics, because he led off the Athletics game with an inside the park homer. And imagine leading off the game with an inside the park home run, and it's not even the most talked about inside the park home run that day. Like, he led it off. It was the first time in decades that someone, I believe, has led off a game with an inside the park homer. And then about 2 hours later, the Giants were like, you want to see something? We'll give you an inside the park homer. How about a 3-run shot to walk it off? I mean, and they needed all 3 runs. They were down 2. It was 1 out. A double play there ends the game. And, next thing you know, here comes Bailey, and the rest is history.
The rest is history. It is one for the books. Speaking of the books, we might have some days in history. And for the Giants, it's a team that's trying to continue moving forward, right? They had a great start to the year. Then they hit a little bit of turbulence. And then it's kind of like, whammy, what are we doing? And now they're playing better ball again. They are 9 games over 500 as we record this. And they are 51-42 in second place, 5 games behind the Los Angeles Dodgers. But staying out there in San Francisco, you're feeling good. You're having good emotions about where the team's heading. At least that's what you felt going into the year. And hell, that's even how you felt after acquiring one of the most prolific left-handed bats in the game, Zach. And recently, though, there's a story that popped up here. So we know in Boston, Rafael Devers didn't want to play first base or said, not right now. And there was a lot of issues and baggage. But then the story came out that San Francisco Giants legend Will Clark offered to give Rafi some tips on the field on how to play first base. It was the same series as the Boston Red Sox won. So you're facing your previous team where you had all those memories and signed that big contract. And Rafi not only stood him up once, but it was multiple times where he did not come out to do first base work early. So I texted Will Clark about this, but let's listen to the clip on Deuces Wild with Eric Burns and Will Clark discussing what the hell happened out there in San Fran a few weeks ago.
Devers comes over from Boston, and you have an opportunity to meet him. Right. So Matt Williams and Bob Melvin want me to go out there and work with him around first base. No problem. And we weren't gonna like go through anything physical. We just gonna walk through and say, hey, look, if throw's coming from over there, stand this way. If throw's coming from over there, stand that way. It wasn't gonna be this big thing, right? And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, he did not come out early at all. Period. Not at all. Matter of fact, he didn't even hit on the field, right? And everybody's like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry, Will. I'm so sorry." I'm like, "Hey, don't worry about it." I said, "I know what the fuck happened." I said he didn't want to go out and be at first base and be 20 feet in front of their freaking dugout with, what went on in Boston, and now he's working with me at first base. He didn't want to have to go through all that bullshit through the press and the media. And so, anyway, so I completely understand. But Rafael Devers, the next time I'm in San Francisco, your ass will be on the field at first base. Just letting you know that. Just from the
but if he's not going to go out, he's going to tell you.
Hey, look, even if I got to go grab you by the fucking back of the neck and drag your ass out there, you will be at first base.
So, yeah. There's Will Clark. It was very open and honest. And look, he's not blaming Rafi for not wanting to go out there. And so when I see this video, though, pop, Zach had Will Clark on part of the Legends series. And if you're new to the channel, check out the Legends series. Sat down with a lot of great players in the game, Will Clark being one of them. So I texted Will and I said, hey, is there truth to this? Before I even saw that clip. And he said, yeah, there's truth. But again, he echoed the same sentiment. He goes, I understand from that standpoint, right? Because look, your former team, you want this to be over. People are saying, oh, Rafi's attracting the drama. Believe me, he wanted it to be over. Everyone wanted it to be over. The Red Sox, the Giants. But there's a better way to communicate if you're not going to come out for early work, right? You can be, hey, I'll do this, but I'm going to wait a few days. The communication part to me is kind of like that's the messed up part in this situation, right? It's just, hey, 2 seconds. I'm not going to do it while they're here, but next time I'm in, right? Yeah. It's simple. It goes a long way because now people are talking about it and Will's trying to diffuse it. But if Rafi misses it again, yeah, Will's going to let it fly.
He ain't wait. He's not missing again. I mean, Rafael Devers and communication issues. It seems to be the trend of 2025. It's, the big stories that it's not, no, he didn't mean that. It's just miscommunication, stuff like that. I agree. If Will Clark's out there, Will said it. He's like, he knows what the F's going on. He doesn't care. Just tell him, like, hey, Will, appreciate this so much. Timing, just a little weird. I think I got to do this. You see right there, Will would not have cared. We've talked to Will. He's the most laid back guy. He'll, like you said, next time he'll get Rafael Devers' ass out there. But overall, Will gets it, and I think it's a little bit blown out of proportion because I don't think anyone expected. Like, I get Rafael Devers not wanting to be working at first base 3 days after getting traded to San Francisco for not wanting to play first for the Red Sox. And now he's working out at first base to get ready for that in front, like Will said, 20 feet in front of the Red Sox dugout. Just awkward for everyone. I think it's, it's just more of a just let the guy know that you're not going to do it. And then this is a no story.
Yep. That's just how it goes. And if you win, we talked about it, winning cures a lot. I think it's a fresh slate. Everyone loves the story, but if this happens in the future, well, then you're going to see some shit go down over there in San Fran. But I'll tell you what, Zach, it's not affecting Rafi Devers, at least for the month. He's only hitting a cool 296 out there at this current moment in time to start off the month of July. So Giants, they're finding ways. Devers is going to be a big part of that moving forward. And we'll have to check in with Will Clark on his next thoughts. And I'm sure he'll give us a very colorful description when he does go back out there and he does get to work with Rafael Devers on that point. But if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We're virtual today because of some situations. Life happens, but we have our studio that we do live from there Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And look, baseball is always our backbone. We're going to talk a little bit football later on, obviously being based out of Baltimore. And I think in this case, though, we're talking about people making significant impact, Zach. Well, that's essentially when you look towards the MLB draft. Who is going to be the player that you are selecting that is going to make an impact for your franchise moving forward? And then when those guys get drafted and you're in your system, well, who's elevating their game that could be that next guy that can help you get to where you want to go, and for those teams to get to a World Series? And you've seen them all around. I think he was just on MLB Network just the day ago. You can read all the stuff on MLB Pipeline. But let's bring on senior writer Jim Callis. Jim, you there?
How are you guys doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing? This is your busy time of the year.
Yeah, just a little bit. We got the draft coming. We're starting to rework our team prospect list at MLB Pipeline. So there's a lot going on between now and the draft and through the draft, which starts on Sunday.
Yeah, how much, just so you can give people a little bit of a background of your coverage on the day-to-day during a season, how much are you traveling, writing, following all the teams, and then what the draft experience is like for you trying to put all the pieces together?
Yeah, it's not as much. I mean, there is some travel, but a lot of it now, there's so much video and it's easy to reach people versus text and talk to them. So it's not like I'm out at games every day. It probably would be a lot less efficient, honestly, because, if you think about the draft, like I'm based in Illinois. So even like we have, for instance, Jack Bauer, who throws 103 miles an hour, is an hour and a half away from me. So if I wanted to go see Jack Bauer pitch, it would be one day, and I might see him on his best day, I might see him on his worst day, but I could get a snapshot of Jack Bauer. But it's like an hour and a half there, if I'm lucky, because the traffic up here is terrible. A couple hours at the game, hour and a half back. So that's what, 5 hours or so. I could talk to scouting director, scouts, and break down a lot more than one player in that time. But yeah, it's pretty much this time of year, nonstop, communicating with people, whether it's phone, text, email, looking at videos. I got another mock draft I have to do that'll be out Sunday morning, wee hours Sunday morning. So pretty much nonstop. I'll get to Atlanta on Friday and probably lock myself in my hotel room as much as I can to work on the draft. Plus, we have rehearsals for MLB Network, and I'll go watch the Futures game because I can't pass up the Futures game. But I'll pretty much try to quarantine myself as much as I can until that last mock draft is done. And then Sunday we'll be on the air starting at 5 Eastern on MLB Network. I don't know. It seems like it lasts 6 hours. It's a long broadcast on the previous show. And then day 2, we're streaming on MLB.com. Melanie Newman from Baltimore with the Orioles, Jonathan Mayo and I for rounds 4 through 20. And for rounds 4 through 10, we will give you scouting analysis of every player. So that's a little hectic. Hopefully we have 90 to 95% of those guys covered, but there's always a few guys where texting teams like, hey, we don't have anything on this guy. What can you tell us? When they're taking a $5,000 senior sign in the 8th round. And I think that broadcast is going to last about 7 hours. And so then Tuesday, hopefully I can relax for a little bit. We'll see.
Yeah. You got a full schedule and then some when the draft comes around, but you know what? That's a part of the biz, right? And it'll be hectic. It'll be fun. And then you can take a deep breath when it's all said and done here. But I wanted to talk, since we're talking about the draft and everything. And, also I meant to mention, last thing I want to mention on the Futures game, we're having Nick Markakis next on, and he's going to be one of the coaches. So I always love to see the stars for the future. So actually I'll start with that because during the draft and trade deadline and who is going to be the next ascending players, you get to see that more on the day-to-day, right? You're evaluating who we could expect here to make an impact. Is there someone in the prospect world that you are really intrigued or you think could be a very impactful piece for a ball club moving forward and even could take it another step forward that could be a very interesting piece come the end of July here with teams trying to make some significant moves.
Yeah, I don't know if these guys will get traded or called up, but two guys who I think are going to be maybe the two best prospects to watch in the futures game are a pair of shortstops, Sebastian Walcott with the Rangers and Dallas DeVries, who's with the Padres. And these guys are so crazy advanced, Ryan. Walcott's 19, he's in Double-A. DeVries is 18, he's in High A. And you know, they both have huge power. They could be 30 homer shortstops. You know, Walcott's got at least a 65 arm on the 2080 scouting scale. These guys are so advanced for their age, and they have so much power. And I think they fly on the radar a little bit because they're so young. So you're not hearing their names like, oh, the teams aren't going to give them up in trades, and they're not going to be up this year. But when we watch the futures game on Saturday, I think it's Saturday, my schedule, I basically at the point, Ryan, where people tell me where I need to be at what time, and that's where I am. I'm
and
pretty
you're
sure
there.
The futures game is Saturday. But anyway, those are probably the two guys I am most excited to see in person. I mean, we're talking about two guys who are probably going to be in the big leagues when they're 20 years old.
I mean, well, I want to just take a second here of realizing, because you talk about how advanced they are for their age, and that being 20 years old and getting to the big leagues, even though people expect you're in the big leagues, you're ready. There's a lot of room for improvement and growth, right?
Yep.
And I'm going to emphasize that because sticking in Baltimore, they had the case with Jackson Holiday last year, right? Where people were ready to ascend him as one of the top players on the team, maybe even overthrow Gunnar Henderson, who was a MVP.
Oh, come on. He wasn't going to overthrow Gunnar Henderson, was he? Come on.
No, well, okay. This is my point, Jim, is there are people coming up here and go, wait a minute, this is the number one prospect in baseball. This guy is going to be just like Gunnar. It's like, whoa. Let's calm down here. Yeah. There's another prospect in Baltimore that the Orioles seem a little bit more patient with, catcher Sam Basayo, who he's also 20 and is going to be pushing towards it. So I just want to tell people there's a lot of room for growth and improvement, a lot of excitement because these players are studs, but it's going to take time. And since I mentioned Sam Basayo, could you just give me, for our audience, a little bit of blurb on what you think the Orioles, when they're trying to evaluate Sam moving forward? Because I see a guy that is so advanced hitting-wise, it's ridiculous. But I do understand that they got to figure out where he's going to be positionally, and they have to commit to playing him every day, which is something that they haven't necessarily done with all their prospects when they've gotten to Baltimore.
Yeah, it's tough because I do think on one hand, he's one of the best prospects in baseball. He's one of the best hitters in the minor leagues. He's basically not as athletic, but similar. I talked about Walcott being 19 in Double-A, DeVries being 18 in High A. Basayo's hitting in Triple-A's. He's 20 years old. But it's tough because he's a catcher, and catcher's not a position where you need to play to get better. So he needs to catch, at least say 3-4 games a week to try to improve at catcher. His bat is way ahead of his catching at this point. Like, he could be plus bat, plus power, maybe even better than that. And you're hoping he's an average catcher, but he's not there yet. Well, you can't, if you bring him to the big leagues, and the Cubs kind of ran into the position with similar prospect named Moises Ballesteros. And they called him up for a couple of weeks to DH and send him back down. But you can't bring Basayo up and not play him behind the plate, because then you're not going to be able to improve him a catcher. But you also can't, and this has been a kind of a lost year for the Orioles, so it's a little different than it was with Ballesteros and the Cubs. If you're trying to win games, you can't have a guy who's trying to figure out how to catch at the big league level, because your pitchers are not going to want to throw to him. I don't think there's any great way to quantify the effect a catcher has on a staff. We can measure framing and we can say he threw out this percentage of base stealers, but just in terms of calling pitches and making guys feel comfortable, knowing how which guys you have to kick in the ass and which guys you have to put an arm around. Like I just think of a guy like Jason Varitek. I like all the numbers, but I don't feel like wins above replacement could ever quantify all the things that Jason Varitek could bring to the table. And so that's the the issue when you have a guy like Basayo or Ballesteros with the Cubs is it's kind of tough, because if you could split him in half, the offensive version of Samuel Basayo, that guy's ready to, he needs at bats in the big leagues. So he's not learning anything in AAA. But the catching version of Basayo, he needs reps, and you can't really give him the pitchers in the big leagues. It affects them if they have a guy who's not a good catcher or not ready to catch in the big leagues. So like I said, they're not going to want to throw to him. And like you say, okay, we'll put him at first base, and then maybe eventually where he winds up. But like you said, it's kind of a tricky proposition because you want to maximize his value. So you want to try to get him to catch, but you have to keep giving him those reps.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned WAR, right? It's a great metric. This isn't me bashing WAR because I think there's a lot of great things that it brings to it. But in the game of baseball, there are things that you cannot quantify. One of those things is the impact a catcher has behind the dish that knows what he's doing and gives the pitcher full confidence. And I'm not talking about blocking the ball. I'm not talking about being able to gun down a runner at second base on every opportunity. You got to be able to control it. And that is such an underrated quality. And there's a lot of other underrated qualities, the makeup of players, the character of players, all that goes into making a pretty damn good ball player, which kind of brings me into the last part here, Jim Callis, MLB Pipeline, senior writer. And I'm sorry if I'm not trying to stutter a little bit. I got Invisalign, Jim. So I'm trying to learn how to talk with that, you know? Do I sound too strange? I already
No, you sound good. You sound good.
Oh, see, I knew I liked you, Jim. You're too kind. The point that you want to talk about with players, prospects, and all of this, I wanted to emphasize makeup and character because when you draft a player, that's one thing I think you have to evaluate. You went on MLB Network, I believe, yesterday, and this quote I have about Ethan Holiday, to be specific, was you think that Ethan actually reminds you more of what Matt Holliday must have looked like coming out of high school. And Matt was a specimen, was the Gatorade football and baseball player of the year. And I know the Nats got a lot of things to figure out, specifically in their organization. But if you're sitting at the top of the draft here, you know, where would you lean? And then do you think the Nationals will follow suit? So do you think Ethan would go 1? And if he does, great. But what do you think the Nationals will end up actually doing?
Yeah, it's if I was picking number 1 in a vacuum, like where I'm not a team, I don't have specific needs or strengths and weaknesses, I would take Ethan Holiday. I think he's got the best power ceiling in this draft. If he reaches his ceiling, he could be a 40 home run guy. You mentioned makeup. I mean, you come from a baseball family, but I mean, the Holidays are a baseball family, and those guys, it's easier in pro ball because you can't. It almost sounds like a cliche, but in baseball, it's true because baseball is such a sport of reps, and it's not just being the biggest guy or the fastest guy or the most physical guy. If you're a hitter, it's having a good swing and being taught the right way. And like if you're from the Holidays or the Ripkens or whoever, you grew up around the game. You were instructed how to do things the right way at a very young age. So it's muscle memory by the time you get to pro ball. B, those guys like Jackson, and we're seeing like the better version of Jackson Holiday this year. Jackson had so many demands on his time for a guy who hadn't even made the team last year, and he handled them all well because he kind of knew what to expect. He'd seen his dad deal with it. And, they're not fazed by riding buses in the minor leagues or being in a clubhouse or the demands on your time. And I think it's easier for those guys to acclimate. So I would take Ethan Holiday number 1 if it were me. Now, I could see an argument if I'm the Nationals where the strength of my organization, I have a lot of interesting young position players. I don't have as much pitching. And I could see right now, as of today, I think they're leaning towards taking Cade Anderson. I think teams think they're going to take Cade Anderson from LSU. He's a 4-pitch lefty, MVP of the College World Series, led the nation in strikeouts. And they could use more pitchers like that. Now, there's more risk with pitchers because they get hurt more often. He's pretty polished. He'll probably get there quicker than Ethan Holiday, although I would also say that your best high school players get there pretty quick too. So you have to consider all that stuff. This draft is tough because unlike the last couple drafts where you had almost too many options at number 1, with Paul Skeens and Dylan Cruz and Wyatt Langford and Max Clark and Walker Jenkins, or even last year with Bazana and Condon and Chase Burns and Caglione and Nick Kerr, on and on and on. This year, nobody separated themselves really. And I think just to put it in perspective, if you had Ethan Holiday in the 23 draft, I don't think he'd be a top 5 pick. If he was in last year's draft, I don't necessarily think he'd be a top 7 pick. And I think he's a very good player. The same thing with Kate Anderson. I don't think Kate Anderson would be a top 5 pick 5 years ago, or I'm sorry, 2 years ago, or a top 7 or 8 pick last year. But the draft is what the draft is in that given year. And while nobody's separated themselves, I do think most teams would take those guys in whichever order, 1 and 2 at the top of the draft.
Man, you're having me think a little bit here, Jim. I love doing it from year to year. It gives great perspective.
Yeah.
And you're right, the Nats, their need isn't necessarily an infielder, but do you take who you think is the best available that can continue to skyrocket you?
You should take the best available guy. 100%.
You should. Hey, I'm for that. I am with that. Honestly, in Baltimore, Jim, that's like the Ravens' philosophy. They take the best available, even if they don't need it. And it
just kills me too. I'm a Steelers fan, and it kills me how good the Ravens are. I know.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, it was painful when they drafted Lamar Jackson, and as a double hit, I went to University of Georgia. It killed me. Like, I knew Todd Monken was going to leave, like for something bigger. But like when I found out it was the Ravens, I was like, come on, like this is just terrible. So
okay,
yeah.
I know this isn't baseball. I have one more baseball question, but like, are we in the camp that Pittsburgh's back with Aaron Rodgers?
No.
Okay,
we're in the camp of they're throwing a bunch of stuff and seeing what happens this year. I don't understand it. I mean, I guess you could argue Aaron Rodgers is the best available option, unless you trade for Kirk Cousins, I guess. But no, I'm expecting another 9-8 season and getting crushed by somebody in the first round of the playoffs, whether it's the Chiefs, the Bills, or the Ravens.
that's the spirit, Jim. I'm back to loving you again.
I'm realistic. I'm realistic. What can I say?
Hey, you know what? I'm realistic too. Ravens are going to go 19-0. Just kidding. Let's get back to the AFC Championship game, and then let's win that game. Talk about pressure. That would be something. Now, last baseball question, because the Orioles fans are going to want to know this, and we talked about how there's risks with taking pitchers early. You take the best available. I'll bring Zach on because you know what? I feel like some would argue that the Orioles are allergic to taking pitchers very early, Jim. So
I don't think that's even an argument if you just look at the track record. They have not taken pitchers early.
Yeah, and Jim, Orioles haven't taken a pitcher in the first round since Grayson Rodriguez in 2018. They do, however, this year have 3 picks in the top 31, 19, 30, and 31. Is there any way that you see does Baltimore take a pitcher? Because they have Sam Basayo, they have a few other prospects, but pitching is where this team has lacked on the major league roster and in the minors throughout the past few years. Do you think that this could be a year we see a change there?
I don't think they'll take a pitcher at 19 like that. I just don't think they're going to take a pitcher with their first round pick. The 2 supplemental first rounders, I think they could. I think a lot of it honestly depends on who's there. You're picking that low in the draft. It depends. Like I said, I think I would be shocked if they took a pitcher at 19 because it's just not their MO. And then at 31, it depends if the right guy fell to him, say, Forbes from Louisville, Patrick Forbes from Louisville is really interesting. Maybe a Riley Quick from Alabama, they'd have interest. But I don't think they would force a pitcher just to take a pitcher, even though that isn't. And however many pitchers they have on the board, if those guys are gone, they might just go hitter with those top 3 picks.
Yeah,
they've done that quite a bit, to say the least, and some of them are still in the organization. I mean, you got Heston Kjerstad, Colton Cowser, Adley Rutschman, Jackson, and then they still have other prospects.
And Enrique Bradfield the last 2 years.
Yeah.
But
Honeycutt, yeah. Oh goodness, Jim. Well, I guess we'll find out if they go by best available. I forgot to mention Ravens best available when they got Kyle Hamilton. Don't mean to rub salt in the wound there.
Yeah. They never make a bad draft pick. That's the thing that kills me as a Steelers fan is like they might have the best front office. They have, arguably as good a head coach as anybody. They make good hire. Like the Ravens are hiring Todd Monken and the Steelers are hiring Arthur Smith. Like come on. Like that doesn't help me. And then their draft process is tremendous. It's just very painful to have. I think of all the teams I root for, the Ravens are probably the arch rival of my team I like the least. Although it's a respectful dislike.
Yeah.
But they're so well run, it's just painful. They never, can't Jerry Jones buy the Ravens or something? And then you just have some crazy draft picks. But no, it never happened. Like I said, the Todd Monken hiring could not have been more painful. It could not have been more painful.
So I understand, and clearly you're an SEC guy then with Georgia, and I can tell that. I'll save that for a different time because I think the SEC isn't as strong as they used to be. And Nick Moore, who's on the Ravens,
I think people are kidding themselves, Ryan. Like, I don't think it was their best year last year, and they didn't perform great in the playoffs, and that's fine. But this whole notion, I'm not going to name schools by name. This whole notion, like, oh, there's NIL, people are getting paid, so the SEC is not good anymore. Well, I will name names. Do we really think Miami and Florida State were above board? Didn't Ohio State get busted for stuff? Like, this notion that only the SEC was perhaps paying players was absurd. So I'm saying everybody better be careful about knocking the SEC football. We'll see. I'll tell you what's also painful. I live in Chicago, Big Ten country. Big Ten has like 2 or 3 good teams. The rest of the Big Ten is not very good. Like, let's put Indiana. I'm just going to make all enemies ever. Put Indiana in the SEC, and they would not have been, one loss. They played one good team all year in the regular season, and they got destroyed. And like, hey, the committee's like, we're not going to look at anything but wins and losses. Now, I will say, just so you know where I'm coming from, I'm not like, oh, Alabama should have been and Ole Miss should be in. You lost 3 games. You lost games to teams you shouldn't have lost to. You dug your own hole. They did it to themselves. So I'm not advocating that, but I hate being in Big Ten country and hearing about how great the Big Ten is. It's like a 3-team league.
I get it. So Nick Moore is the long snapper for the Ravens, friend of the show, comes on for the season for us each time. Georgia Bulldog.
Yes.
I had to tell him, I said, dude, it's Notre Dame's just teaching it better up there now.
Oh, come on.
See, Jim, did you expect that we were going to be talking MLB Draft, prospects?
Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois. Who was Notre Dame's best win during? Now, I'll give Notre Dame credit. They got the championship and they beat Georgia head-to-head. It was the weirdest game, though. Like, now you're going to be riled up. Georgia, we outplayed Notre Dame. Georgia outplayed Notre Dame in that game, but they gave up like 3 huge plays. It was like the weirdest game. It was like, that was painful to watch, where we moved the ball up and down the field, but ATN fumbles. Then, hey, there's 20 seconds to go. Let's have the backup quarterback make something happen. Oh, he got strip sacked, and we'll give up a touchdown. And then we haven't kicked to the returner all day because he's dangerous. Let's mix it up. And he returns it for a touchdown. And then it's like, well, now we're in trouble. But I'm telling you, Ryan, like, I'm gonna have to make myself a note. When you have me on next year, we'll see where the SEC was. We'll see where the SEC was.
Hey, you know what, Jim? I might just have to have you come on during football season.
Yeah, like in October or November. Yeah.
Yeah, let's have you come back and talk shop about where the teams are standing. Yeah, we could talk baseball a little bit, but honestly, this is where the passion is clearly.
Well, last fall was so hard because Georgia played by far the hardest regular season schedule. And there was a narrative, if they lose to Tennessee, they're not even going to go to the playoff. Like, Texas didn't. The only good team Texas played during the regular season was Georgia, and we smoked them at their place. And then what happens in the SEC championship game? Like, when they're like, what's Georgia going to be if they lose in the SEC championship game? We beat them with our backup quarterback. So anyway, if you had me on last fall, you would have heard me scream about how bad the committee was at looking at strength of schedule.
Well, perfect. Jim, what we're going to do, we'll get you on with Nick Moore, and you guys can go back and forth because, you guys will be in unison because Nick is all about the Bulldogs. And I have seen where the passion lies. So we'll talk about the AFC North. We'll talk about college football. And then if we have enough time, Jim, we'll talk a little bit of baseball as well.
A little hot stove.
Yeah, a little hot stove. Why not? But on the way out, again, remind people where they can find you, that you're going to be busy like 48 hours a day during the draft and all that stuff.
Yeah, so like all of our stuff's at MLB.com, MLBpipeline.com, and everything's free there. Scouting reports on the top 250 players in draft videos, mock drafts, all that stuff. Sunday, I think I got these times down now. 5 p.m. Eastern on MLB Network, we'll have a draft preview show for an hour. 6 p.m. well into the evening. We'll have the first 3 rounds of the draft. Then on day 2, streaming at MLB.com, we will have rounds 4 through 20 of the draft. And rounds 4 through 10 will be filled with commentary from me, Jonathan Mayo, and the Orioles' own Melanie Newman. And that, I think, is going to be like a 7-hour broadcast. And then Tuesday, I think I have to do a podcast for MLB.com, but Tuesday, hopefully, I will be relaxing briefly. So
yeah, put your feet up and go watch the Georgia National Championship highlights. You know,
I'm telling you, like, if I need to, I'll pop up the Ohio State semifinal or the Alabama final. But no, what you need to do, Ron, when I'm exhausted Saturday night, I'm trying to write my last mock draft at 1 a.m. I'm just going to start thinking about how everybody's saying the SEC football's down. And I'm going to get all angry and fired up like I am now, and it'll give me that second win. So
perfect. And you know what? If you want to like prove a point, you can even shoot me a text and just say, hey, this is what I'm talking about. And be like, all right, Jim, you know?
So I'm re-energized now. I'm going to go get some work done. So
hell yeah, Jim. Well, hey, appreciate your time. Thank you as always. Safe travels. Enjoy yourself. And then you'll have a well-deserved rest. All right.
Okay. Good talking to you guys. Thanks.
Jim Callis, everybody.
SEC football.
It always brings it out.
There's
of
something in that Georgia water.
Oh my goodness. I mean, Nick is going to be so fired up when he finds out, if we ever see a wild Nick Moore again. But at least for the time being, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We're live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And I see a little love from Facebook. Appreciate you guys. And in the chat on YouTube, thank you. If you're looking to do a little bit more with the channel, you can be a channel member. We got the Rips Good Kids and the Holy Shirts and Pants members. And I told the Holy Shirts and Pants members, or everyone on YouTube, at least once a week, we're doing a Rip After Dark. It's going to be me, you, questions, maybe some drinks, some casual conversation, and a little bit more. So that's another thing I wanted to add to everything with the Holy Shirts and Pants. I appreciate you guys and everything that our channel members provide. It goes right back into making this better so we can make more content and get some of these great guests on for you on the day-to-day. The Rips Good Kids is $2.99. If you go to Starbucks, you're paying $5 for a grande. And there's a whole different topic. If you buy a grande and venti, apparently, Zach, it's like the same size, allegedly.
Is it? Oh, when did that happen?
Yeah.
Well, they're jargon. Is that what's considered jargon? That be considered jargon? Calling it a venti or a grande instead of medium and large.
Yeah. Yeah, tall, large, medium. They might all be the same size. And here's the link, by the way, as well.
Yeah. And I mean, it's like bringing on Jim Callis to talk MLB prospects, but instead, afterwards, we get into some fiery SEC conversation. That's what it's all about. What it's all about.
Yeah. Yeah. And honestly, of course, it's not actually the same thing. I just seen a conspiracy theory like on Starbucks and like some of these.
Did you see one of those?
You know what? I'm gonna do it myself. I'm gonna do it myself. Okay. Stay tuned. I'll do it myself.
Yeah, we'll get the. I can't wait to see that.
Yeah.
You trying to pour Starbucks?
Yeah. Oh, what? The rumor is that people want to test. The hypothesis is that grande and venti really is the same because the grande is a wider cup and the venti is just tall. You know what? You thought that you were going to talk about baseball, football, and everything in between, and this is just a Mythbuster segment brought to you by your friends over at the Ryan Ripken Show. So appreciate you guys. Appreciate each and every one of you new to the channel. Hit that like and subscribe button. Do this live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. It's been fun so far this week, Zach. We've had some great guests that join us consistently, and we've had some great guests, obviously, from Birdland or being a part of the team community for a long time. Yesterday, we had Darren O'Day, surprised the hall pretty good, and Bryce Whitlow. And today, I think, especially if you've been an Oriole fan, not a recent Oriole fan, don't give me that. You were going through the days where things were a little bit woof. Could have been better, but you got out of those dark times and into one of the best times that the Orioles saw in the 2010s, that 12-16 run. And Nick, if you're ready, Just let me know. Give me a thumbs up. Oh, perfect. Well, let's bring on longtime Oriole and a little bit of Atlanta Brave. I don't want to bring that up too much. But Nick Markakis.
How we doing?
Nick, what's going on?
Not much. Just chasing boys around the baseball fields.
Yeah. How's life after the playing career treating you?
Much busier, I say. I got a lot more going on than I did when I was playing. A little more downtime during work time, but man, I've been way busier ever since I retired. But it's been great chasing these boys around and watching them do what they want to do.
You know, it's funny when you look at it that way, that when people think baseball, 8 months out of the year, right? February to October, that's your job and you are committed. 162 is the game schedule, any playoffs. Yeah, you have some off days mixed in there. But it's funny that you're saying that you feel like you're busier now when you did just go through 8 months of the grind. Did you ever envision that's how I was going to feel?
No, Jim Johnson, who pitched with us in Baltimore, retired a little bit before me, and he always told me that. He's like, dude, I'm way busier now than I ever was when I'm playing. When you're playing, it's pretty much sleep. You wake up, you're at the ballpark, and a lot of downtime, a lot of sitting around, especially rain delays and stuff like that, waiting, for your turn to go out to BP and do all that stuff. It's the complete opposite when you're home. It's boom, boom, boom every day, especially when you got three boys that both
Yeah, go ahead.
They all play football and baseball, so it's like full circle year round. It's nonstop.
Yeah, I was going to say I might have to ask for some parental advice. I'm not there yet, by the way. I'm getting married this September, and then the family stuff will happen next. And yeah, I don't know. I think you got to figure it out as it goes. But I remembered how much my parents followed me around when I was doing the sports, and I'm like, oh, it can't be that exhausting or busy. And you wouldn't trade it for the world. My parents said they loved it. But I'm sitting there going, damn, I went to this tournament. I had this the other weekend. But it's really cool. It's like the full circle moment. And also, by the way, when you said woke up, go to the field, play, you specifically just played all the time. Like you didn't miss a lot of games overall, I think, unless you were hurt. Yeah, you had a lot of games where you played 155 or more games. I'm losing track of it. It's like 11 or 12 of your 15 seasons.
I mean, that's half the battle right there is being able to stay healthy, and you take care of yourself, and a lot of that has to do with playing the game smart too, not trying to be too out of control, and you got to have everything under control, take care of your body, and the ultimate goal is to be out there. You can't really do much for your team when you're on the bench, hurt or DL. So, it's just take care of yourself, and, everything else will play itself out.
I got to ask you about hitting, and because you're saying about not wearing yourself out or being smart. I just remembered because I'd go in and work out with Gavin Sheets over at Bish's place. And then you would mosey on it a little bit. And I tell this for when I say work smarter, not harder. I remember sometimes you would just do just side toss. And I don't know how many swings you would take. It felt like it wasn't a lot. And then you were done. It'd be like, okay, see you later. And also you would hit rockets that were 5 feet off the ground, maybe even less, might be 2 feet. But I just noticed when you were done with your work, you got out, right? You always, it seemed like you found a way to be efficient with your time.
Yeah, you got to kind of figure out how to balance your time, especially, when you have pretty much 8 months ahead of you. And even during the season, even spring training, all that, I felt like if I took 25, 30 good swings, it was more beneficial than taking 50, 25 good swings and then, or 10 good swings, 10 bad swings. I really, really tried to, put a good swing on the ball and emphasize what I was trying to do in the cage, because you played the game. A lot of the hitting is muscle memory, and if I can train my muscles and train my head to attack the ball a certain way and be successful at it, it would give me a better chance in live situations. And I just always you practice how you play, whether it's hitting or defense. You want to do everything with a purpose. I'll tell you one story. BJ Surhoff.
Oh yeah.
This was probably my first spring train in big league spring training, and I was up there. You remember Jeff Fiorentino?
Mm-hmm.
Me and him were in left field, and I think BJ was in right. Maybe we were in right or left. It was one or the other. And we're taking balls off the bat, and just kind of lobbing the balls back in to second base. And we hear Screech. BJ called him Jeff Screech and called me Cakes. And by the tone of his voice, we knew he was angry. And he called us over there, and he just preached, if you're going to do it the right way. You practice how you play. And that's something I always, knowing BJ said it in a little different tone and a little different way, but he got his point across pretty clear to us. And I really took that. I didn't take that for granted. I really took that with me, and I really tried to every time I was on the baseball field, throwing balls in, shagging balls, I did everything with a purpose, because that's how you practice how you play. If you practice lethargically or sarcastic, and that translates over to the game. So I tried to do everything with purpose. And I don't know if BJ knows it, but I thank him, and I appreciate the what he did for me and Jeff that day in spring training.
Yeah, and Beach can have a reputation at times for expressing himself, being a little bit grumpy, as some would say, but he was a pro's pro, right? He showed up, did his work. I remember him in the off season when I was still a young kid. Heck, my dad might have just been finishing playing. I'm trying to remember the timeline, but I remember BJ just came over to the house to throw against our cement wall, like getting his work in. I remember him saying, he went, Rye, he goes, if I do this right, and I'm focusing on one target, I'm always making it intentional. And I was like, maybe I when you're a young kid, you think, well, you're just getting your arm loose. You're thinking. He goes, no, I'm looking at the same spot, trying to do the same thing, even if I don't have access to all the other elements. I'm going to be intentional with what I'm doing right here and right now. And I'm glad you had that type of, someone to step in. That I think veteran leadership and mentorship is so important, and maybe that could be a more longer conversation at a different time. But seeing you now involved with the Futures game, which I think is really cool, right? And you're talking about trying to give some tidbits here. And Nick, I don't think it's a shock. You're not known as being the out there all the time, the big talker, from what I've known and grown up with, but you really do like getting to work with the players, and you're going to have a chance to work with some of the best coming up here in Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm excited. Chipper had reached out to me, and he gave me a list of the guys that were going to be on his staff. And with it being in Atlanta, and the guys that he was bringing on board, I really couldn't turn it down. It's not really my cup of tea, but you never know. I haven't done anything like it. I'm comfortable with the guys that I'm going to be around and coaching with. And it's a different chapter that's opening right now, and it intrigues me. It's some of the best young group of guys, players, for the future of baseball that I'm going to be able to work with, and just to see them do their thing on a cool stage. It's probably going to be one of their bigger stages of their career. It'll be fun to watch them partake in that and be a part of it.
Yeah, I know one of the guys, Enrique Bradfield Jr. I talked to him last week, and he was ecstatic to get down there and a top prospect with the Orioles, and it is a cool moment, right? And then you guys being there, you are one of the guys that people look up to, right? You know, I don't know if you ever have that full circle moment, you know, that people look at you in such high regard. I know you didn't play the game for all of that recognition, you know. You just played it because you loved it and you were good at it, and you wanted to go out there and give your best. And maybe that's why people always connected with you throughout the years. And I got to be honest, man, I know you're technically a Brave, but I really thought you were going to be a bird for the entire time. I really did. I thought you really embraced Baltimore as well as anyone that had been there through your tenure.
Yeah, I mean, I would, it's everybody's dream to stay in one organization throughout their whole career, and it's an honor to be able to do that. But very few people do that, and that's the business side, and you got to realize that going into it. I realized going into it. There's tough decisions that you've got to make throughout your career. Some decisions you don't want to make, and some decisions are easier. But ultimately, you circle back around with your family. You develop a plan, and and what you envision with you and your family in any direction, and you sit down and make a decision that's best for your family and yourself. And it's a business at the end of the day, and I think as fans and players, they all realize that. And sometimes things work out the way you want it, and sometimes they don't. And that's life, and you just got to deal the cards you're dealt and do the best you can.
Yeah, and maybe just because I'm bitter because I thought you should have been like a 6-time All-Star in Baltimore. I don't know, just looking at the numbers that you had, especially with the team going through some struggles. I'm like, damn, how did Nick? Your one All-Star was when you left. You had years in Baltimore that were unbelievable throughout that whole process. So I don't get it here, Nick. But I don't know.
Well, that's all. It's a lot different than it was back when I came up now, and the All-Star selections was a little bit tougher for the outfield because you would start pretty much all center fielders would get the starting job, and rightfully so. Those are your best defenders out there, and it's good to see MLB kind of alter that, and it gives a lot more opportunity to other guys, and it's good to see. It's a lot of people, like myself. If I only go there one time and experience it, it was something I'll never forget. My boys were old enough to experience it, and one and done is good for me. So I checked that off.
All right. Well, I'm glad at least on that front. To close this out, Nick, I appreciate you taking time. Maybe for a fun part of it, if it's if there's things of a minor league story, Darren O'Day gave some minor league stories. I know you weren't there long. Darren gave a very interesting one where a bus driver had the rooftop of the bus get ripped off while they were on the bus. We had Jim Duquette talking about trade stories when you were in Baltimore that Miguel Tejada was possibly gone and the trade got vetoed. Do you have any of the moments of like when you look back that a story that you can enlighten us on that still sticks with you, or it could be something that you waited for a long time in Baltimore, which was to even have success? No offense to the organization, there were some rough years in Baltimore, Nick. I think you know what I mean.
Yeah, there was, but it was worth all those hard times when you get to that first postseason berth and experience it with the guys that I was able to experience it with. So everything's worth it. Everything happens for a reason. Any minor league stories? I can't remember if it was a minor league or a college. It was a little bit ago. I just remember we were in the restaurant eating at I think it might have been like TGI Fridays or something, and we're just sitting there, and a couple of us are looking out the window, and our bus starts rolling, and it just starts going, and then it just smacks into a couple cars, and it delayed our trip, and I think it might have delayed we were a couple hours to a game or something, but that was that. I've had a couple buses break down. You spend a lot of time on the road, and you almost live on that bus in the minor leagues, and I could probably tell you a bunch of stories that have happened with the bus, but those are kind of the two that stick out in my head.
Goodness gracious. Nick, it's always a bus story.
Always.
Literally. Always.
Well, you
Every
live on
single
it.
time.
You live on it in the minor leagues.
Yeah. Larry Walker, Randy Johnson have a bus story with them. Darren, Bobby Witt Sr. talked to him recently. Oh God. The list goes on and on. I think it's like death, taxes, and if you play baseball long enough, something goes wrong on the bus.
Yeah, you're going to have bus stories.
Oh, gosh. Well, hey, Nick, I'll let you go. I really appreciate it. But is there anything before you go that you wanted to promote or focus on for the game or all of that?
No, just if you're in the Baltimore area, Atlanta area, and you want to make that trip down, and All-Star Weekend. I know it's crazy down in Atlanta, but if you get the chance to come out and support these kids, it's a big deal for them. It's kind of a stepping stone into where they want to go. It's a big stage for these kids, so the support for them is appreciated, and it's going to be a good weekend.
Well, good. Well, I hope you enjoy yourself. You're in great company down there. You look good, and I'm glad that post baseball life is treating you and your family well. And I hope our paths can cross here in the future, whether up in Baltimore, I'll have to make a trip down to Atlanta. All right, Nick.
All right, man. I'll be up in the area soon. I appreciate you having me on, and I'll talk to you, man.
All right, thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. Nick Markakis, everybody. Nick's such a good dude.
It's always the buses.
Dude.
We've yet to have, we've had one or two non-bus stories. Like, obviously, you have Matt Hodley talk about Uribe and stuff. But I swear, whenever we're like, yeah, you have a minor league story, they're like, so there's this bus trip. And every single time, without fail, they are on a bus and something goes wrong. And it's always the bus's fault. I've noticed that, too. It's never like, oh, we took a wrong turn. It's like, yeah, the bus caught on fire. The bus's roof flew off. The bus, they forgot to park the bus, so it just started going. It's like there's always something, and the bus is always getting hurt in some way. Damaged, I guess.
Yeah, it's always something. I know Brad feels the same way. It's always the damn bus. You play long enough, things happen in baseball, but you know what also happens? People tuning in. The Ryan Ripken Show. If you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. We do this live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. Appreciate you guys. And also, Zach, while we take a minute here before our final guest of the show joins us at 4, Mike Florio with Pro Football Talk just has a new book out, by the way. I'd love to get to talk with him. I'm excited to. But we got to take a trip because you weren't here yesterday. Take a trip to our friends up at Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races in
West Virginia. Loving it. And we were close.
Yeah.
We were closer than I thought.
Pretty good.
But Ryan, we're yesterday didn't have a bet because obviously it was not on the show, but we're back. We're back after winning our last 2 last week. So we're on a 2-game win streak. Things are getting hot, and tonight they're going to get hotter. We're getting spicy. How about this? Roman Anthony, the rookie, continues the Terry's on 2+ bases tonight. They're playing the Rockies. Roman Anthony's hot. I'm loving Sensatella. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I would be lying if I said I didn't bet against him almost every time he pitches. He no offense to him, especially if they're in Colorado. It's just a tough place. But we're in Boston. I feel Roman Anthony's going to keep the streak going. We're going to move to 3 straight wins. Roman Anthony, 2+ bases. Mark it down.
Well, I'm glad it's not an Oriole in this case.
Yeah, no, I've stayed wildly away from them.
You're a good kid. I don't care what they say about you, Zach. You are a good kid. And you know what? If you want to take the leap of faith and follow Zach into this betting world and betting space, well, hey, stop traffic. Go check out the ESPN Bet app and the new player bonus. You bet 10, you get 100 in bonus bets. Plus, you get a little ESPN Plus for 30 days. And you download the ESPN Bet app. But realize if you got a gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER or Rocco DeSangro, and you must be 21 or older to play. So hopefully, Zach, for all of our listeners out there, you help them get back on track. We appreciate our friends there up at Hollywood Casino, Charlestown Races, and
West Virginia.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Beautiful. Been a good show so far. We got some great people, good food.
Also, I do have to point out, because I think this is where be careful. The whole, you have a problem called 1-800-GAMBLER. They do this every time on all betting apps, where now everyone has a prop for every game for somebody to hit it inside the park homer. It's like they just see someone do it and they're like, people are going to bet that this happens again. Don't give in to them. It is so impossible to hit it. It is so hard to hit inside the park home run. The odds are not good. Do not. I always say that. It's like they see something like that, and then everyone's like, oh, I'm going to bet on an inside the park homer. It's like, this is where they get you, people. Be responsible. Be responsible. Don't be like, oh, I bet someone hits an inside the park homer. Be responsible. I guess you could say responsibly.
What movie?
Responsibly?
No. So you're telling me there's a chance?
Oh, Dumb and Dumber.
Oh, goodness gracious.
Yeah, I was like, I was like, that is such a generic term. I was like, that's sad.
You're a good kid. I don't care what they say about you, Zach. You are a good kid. And we've had some good kids on the show so far. Jim Callis with MLB Pipeline joined us to talk a lot of baseball, and then we got a little overtime with a little football talk, and which was an absolute delight.
Jim Callis, college football expert.
Yep, Jim Callis, college football and NFL analyst is what we're working on here, and then talked about prospects, draft as it relates to the Orioles, the futures game, the number 1 overall pick. He says he would take Ethan. Thought it was interesting that in different drafts that Ethan might not even go in the top 5 or 7, not because of talent, but because of talent in some of the other drafts. Nick Markakis, longtime Oriole and all-star with the Braves. Got to throw that in there. I wonder if he's still. I think he meets the threshold for Hall pretty good. He might be Hall of Elite though. He's right under 35 WAR.
Is he just under? I was gonna say the wow. He just makes it 33-7.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's
had to.
There we go. It's pretty good.
Hey, well, you know what? While we're waiting for our next guest to join in, why don't we, because I know Brad put together, and usually when Brad's feeling frisky, he's feeling good. He does a great job with On This Day. Brad, is that good to rock? Can we do that? Yeah. Yep. So, Brad, we're going to figure out a good name for this, On This Day. But on this day, Zach, July 9th, several notable events occurred in baseball history across various years. Here's a concise summary of key moments. 1914, the Boston Red Sox purchased Babe Ruth's contract from the minor league Baltimore Orioles, which then marked a pivotal movement in baseball history as Babe Ruth went on to become one of the game's greatest players. How about that?
Awesome. So great that we, especially after last night, that's exactly what I needed. A reminder of that.
Yeah, Orioles trade a minor league player. They did that recently. Kyle Stowers, all-star down in Miami. Will he be one of the greatest we've ever seen? Stay tuned. Why don't we jump to 1932? We just talked about an inside the park home run winner for the San Francisco Giants. How about Ben Chapman of the New York Yankees hit 2 inside the park home runs in the same game, which apparently ties an MLB record. So I'm thinking maybe like back in the day, because, Polo Grounds was 1,000,000 yards to center, right?
You get line drive over the center fielder you're running.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Just saying. Moving on, 1937, Joe DiMaggio hit for the cycle and added a second home run in a game, showcasing his prowess as a Yankees legend. In 1948, Satchel Paige made his MLB debut at age 42 with the Cleveland Indians, becoming the oldest rookie in MLB history and a significant figure in breaking baseball's color barrier. Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Also a legend of the game. 1976, Larry Dierker threw a no-hitter for the Astros, a career highlight after several close no-hitters in the past. 1988, Chris Spear at age 38 hit for the cycle, becoming one of the oldest players to achieve this feat. 38 years old, man, the cycle.
This was a pretty jam-packed, like just a performance.
Oh, we're not done.
What else we got?
What else we got? We got 3 more. 1996. Borders became the first female pitcher to start, or Ela Borders became the first female pitcher to start a minor league game, pitching 5 innings for the Duluth Superior Dukes in the Northern League. It wasn't a loss. In 2011, Derek Jeter recorded his 3,000th career hit with a home run off of David Price in the Bronx. Obviously, as a member of the New York Yankees, still see that picture. Slider or curveball low. Jeter goes down and gets it. Price has the reaction. Whammy right then and there. And then, Zach, you mentioned it, though, going back to yesterday about Lawrence Butler and Patrick Bailey had a leadoff and a walk-off inside the park home run. We just wanted to make a note of that. That marked the first time in MLB history that both occurred on the same day, which is a incredible feat. And that covers everything from the world of baseball on this day in history, brought to you by our friends over at Brad.
Yep.
Our friends at Brad do a great job behind the scenes on the show. And when that gets sponsored, it will still be History by Brad. It's got to be like, what's the word synonym for Facts by Brad? Don't know yet.
Yeah. Well, look, I'll figure something out.
Well, if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. Talked a lot of baseball. And if you guys missed yesterday's show, we had Jim Duquette on to talk about trade speculation, trade stories, and rumors and teams that you should keep an eye on here, as it is a seller's market in his mind. What else did we have on? Oh, yeah, Darren O'Day, surprise commissioner of the Hall. Pretty good. Bryce Whitlow. We got to sit with Darren O'Day talking for 20, 25 minutes about his career, baseball, mindset, and how damn good it feels to be in the Hall of Pretty Good in the inner circle. May I add to that? But we do have Mike Florio joining us here in just a few minutes from Pro Football Talk. He has had a new book come out. Big Shield is now available for pre-order, and the book arrives here on August 19th. And what I actually love, I don't want to spoil it, is how it came together. And reading the article, I love the idea that he thought that maybe the NFL wouldn't like the idea of the book because it's a fictional tale of the mob and gambling and professional football. And we know Mike Florio's, and he will admit it, he's been involved in quite a few conversations, to say the least. So I think it will be great, and it'll be a fun conversation to have. So for all of our listeners out there, we will give more information here as we get closer. And if you're new to the channel, hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We do it live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And for those that don't know, we are based out of the Maryland area, but our two biggest sports that we talk, baseball and football, which we go very, very deep into conversations. And we have a great guest list on both sides of it, and really excited about what our 2025 fall season is going to look like, because of what we've continued to expand on. It's thanks to each and every one of you guys tuning in, as always, for all the support. And make sure if you missed anything from this episode, go back and watch as well. And I think our next guest is here. And Mike, when you're ready, you just give us a thumbs up and we'll bring you on here. Well, you've definitely seen articles. And if you haven't seen articles, you've definitely seen clips of him over the years, Pro Football Talk, NBC Sports. But let's bring on Mr. Mike Florio here. Mike, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, dude. Are you really 6'6"?
Yeah, you're doing notes on me? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I gotta do some research on who I'm going to be talking to. I mean, I see the name Ripken, so I'm not going to say no. So I had to do a little research, and I'm always looking for someone who's taller than Chris Sims, who I have to deal with all the time, and who is very violent with me. He's 6'5", so I may need you in my corner one of these days that he acts up. We bring in someone an inch bigger than him to mop up the floor with him. Although he is, he did play football and he is large all over. But if you're 6'6", that means you've got the same. So it'd be fun. I could stand there and kind of like watch Godzilla versus Mothra.
Yeah, I could hold my own. I'm not. When I played baseball, I was about 245. I've slimmed down a little bit now, Mike. I'm like 215, 220. But don't sleep on the guy here, but if I do stand up straight, it is right. I am 6'6".
Wow, that's good.
That
means
I got a father.
Should say you're 6'7" when I look it up. If you're really 6'6", it should say 6'7".
Is that how it is? So
That's
my last thing I'll do with this one of my best friends, his name's Gavin Sheets. He's on the San Diego Padres, and Gavin, I have always been taller than him my entire life. And we were playing together in AAA, or playing against each other. He was on the Charlotte Knights, the White Sox AAA team. I was on the Norfolk Tides, the Orioles. And I looked up at the scoreboard, and my thing said whatever. At the time, I think it even had me at 6'4". Didn't even have me at 6'6". And then on Gavin's, it says 6'6". And I'm standing at first base, and he just walked. And I said, dude, what the hell is that? And he goes, well, I just wanted to make sure that I was taller than you. And I go, well, that's a lie. And I can still kick your ass, which he knows, but he is doing his thing out there, and it is a real thing. Well, Mike, I appreciate you taking time. And I know upcoming, you have a new book that's out, The Big Shield. And you know why I love this? I was reading the article and how you always describe it, and you're very not just vocal, but you're authentic to how you are. So how I was reading it, it was how I expected you would speak on it. The lines were, it's about mob, gambling, and football. Fictional tale. And that the NFL, I think, might not like this, right? So do you mind just talking about the idea and concept here first of how it came about and what people else can expect with the book dropping?
Well, I appreciate you having me on and appreciate you giving me a chance to talk about it. It comes out August 19. You can get the ebook for only 99 cents, which is very stupid of me, but it's too late to turn back now. And really, it's too late to turn back when it comes to gambling. And I started to, once the Supreme Court opened the floodgates for every state that wants to have sports betting and really any gambling it wants, all the way up to all the casino games, once that happened, I started to wonder how this could create problems for the NFL. And look, I don't want to be Debbie Downer, but I used to practice law. And when you litigate, you deal with the worst case scenario that no one ever envisioned that comes to fruition through the facts of the case that you have to work through the court system. It's always something that went in a way that no one expected it to go that results in cases in court. So I started talking to people and thinking about how this could go haywire for the NFL. You don't want a Tim Donaghy scandal like basketball had some 18 years ago. You don't want to have allegations of game fixing. You don't want to have integrity issues. And there's a lot of different things that could create problems for the NFL. And what I settled on in writing this book was the prevalence of inside information. That if someone really wants to make money off of the things they know, the things they learn before the game, who's injured, who's not injured, who are they lying about being injured, who's getting the bulk of the reps in the running game, what are they going to do this weekend, is the game plan pass heavy, etc. So what it also led to is the value of inside information during a game, because we're seeing more and more real-time betting, in-game betting. The technology is getting better and better. You can bet on each play. You know, if you had a guy on the sideline who knew what the next play was going to be, is it a run or is it a pass? How hard would it be to signal that to someone who can see what, a little of this, a little of that, whatever it takes to let people know who are out there watching what the next play is going to be. So I took that basic concept, the third string quarterback who's in Las Vegas, not the Raiders, just playing for a professional team in Las Vegas, who becomes corrupted by an association with a mobster who has a whole catalog of athletes in every sport, baseball, basketball, football, that he's controlling this way to get inside information. And it begins to ramp up when this guy gets cut and he doesn't have a job, and his handler is too dumb to realize that could have happened to him, and he pressures him to find something else. And by the way, the bulk of the book happens in Baltimore, because I don't want to give away any of the spoilers or twists or turns, but he does end up in Baltimore playing for the Baltimore professional football team that is not the Ravens. They may wear purple and black, but they're not the Ravens.
You know what? I should have known. That there was something in Baltimore there. But you know what? I am excited, and the 99-cent ebook is a steal. I mean, I know, hey, you can't change it now. It's already out there. You said it. Everyone heard it. But the pre-order, August 19th, it comes out. You're right, though, about the gambling side, right? The whole sports landscape has changed, and it's the reality of the business, right? There's a lot of money that's being invested into it. But of course, that can lead to a lot of different avenues. Doesn't have to do with football, but recently, what just happened a week ago in baseball? An investigation for a pitcher on the Cleveland Guardians for 2 pitches, because there was a system that flagged how much money was won off of 2 pitches he had on 2 random dates, right? So it's, And Mike, it seems like you like to connect things to Baltimore with the team that can be purple and black. I mean, that right? Is this kind of is there a connection there?
When I sit down to write something, especially when it's not set in any one specific town, I just kind of go with wherever the process takes me. And when it was time to put the main character on a new team, it just ended up being Baltimore. But again, there's and I don't want to say too much about it because it will give away some of the things. But at the same time, it needed to be somewhere. And, it just so happened that when this guy was looking for a job, he's watching a game on, it may have been Tuesday Night Football, because in this vision of pro football I have, they play every day of the week. They play 20 regular season games. They have 36 teams in the league. And I think it was a Tuesday night after he'd gotten back from a tryout in Minnesota. He just so happens to notice that Baltimore's starting quarterback has torn up his knee and he's on a cart. So he gets a call the next day that they need him on the depth chart. And that's how it all comes to be. But yeah, we got a baseball character who is involved early in the book. There's a basketball player, and that basketball scandal last year with Jonte Porter, the heavy action on the unders, and he's sick and injured in a couple of games. There's so much room for corruption when it comes to those prop bets, Ryan. And I worry that the NFL isn't as worried as it should be, because you get a big scandal like that and it's going to dramatically affect a lot of people. Because I'm at the tip of the spear right now trying to tell people it's not rigged. Because I hear all the time from my audience, the Chiefs, oh, this game's rigged. Oh, that game's rigged. I hear it from my own son. Oh, that's rigged. That's rigged. It's like, it's not rigged. They're not good enough to rig it. And you can't rig it without too many people knowing about it. And then you have to start killing a bunch of people who know about it. And I'm kidding about that, but that's the logical conclusion to that kind of a scam. Too many people know about it, and you can't silence all of them unless you are going to throw them all in the Inner Harbor. So I think that there's a concern, or should be a concern, that if you do have a scandal, it's going to legitimize what's currently tinfoil hat conspiracy theories about games being rigged.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of people talking about football's fixed, the script, right? That's been thrown out there every single year now. Baseball, not that it was, but even the situation around Ohtani in the past year with his interpreter, everyone going, oh my goodness. Like if the international and the face of baseball, if he were involved in this, how it can really tear down the game. And the rules, at least in these professional sports, it's pretty simple. You cannot bet on the game. You cannot do it, right? But there are so many different avenues now where, yeah, I think, Mike, we might see more problems at some point just because there always seems to be someone that will push the envelope of what can be pressed in the NFL. I got to say, though, I hope if it's a script, not rigged, whatever it is, I would like Baltimore to win, Mike. So if you know somebody that can allow that, that would be great. You know,
I'm all for the rigging of the sport if it meshes with my rooting interests or my betting interests.
Yeah. I mean, hell, you know what, Mike? I got to say, I still remember the whole thing with the Lamar thing with you in San Francisco. And I kind of laughed when I look back at it. And I love how you handle all of that too, right? Because you came out and you said your piece with it. But I'm like, you know what? I'm a superstitious guy too. I was thinking about, I don't know Mike yet, but Mike, go talk about how this other team's going to win. Because everyone started talking about how good the Ravens were the last few years. And they just haven't put it together. Can you give me some optimism here, at least as a fan, and for the city on paper, roster? I don't know what else they can do for filling a team's void, right? Quarterback, tight ends, defensive star power, young defensive coordinator that's starting to figure it out more, unity with Todd Monken. Oh, and then the quarterback Lamar Jackson's still there, right? Give me something, Mike.
Hey, and Ryan, he should have been the MVP last year. Nothing against Josh Allen, but I think Lamar's season was more impressive. I don't know why enough of the voters went with Josh Allen instead. I have one of the votes, and I made Lamar Jackson number 1 and Josh Allen number 2. But the team is very, very good. I think that it's mental more than anything else. And this is true in any sport. I remember in baseball, you know how Barry Bonds used to, by the time the postseason came around, and you've got 162 games played, and you get to the games where there's so much emphasis on every game, and therefore so much emphasis on every at-bat, every pitch, everything, it gets in your head. And once a narrative gets started, it makes it so much harder to shed that narrative. And I feel like that's where the Ravens are right now, that there have been enough opportunities to get to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson there as the quarterback, twice the number 1 seed, 1 time to the AFC Championship. And every time you fail, it enhances the narrative. So every time you're back at it, and the whole vibe changes once the regular season ends. Everything shifts, everything pivots. You've got 18 of the teams that are done for the year and they're firing coaches, and that's all happening. You got 14 teams left, and it's all single elimination, and your record only matters in that it secured the spot for you on the playoff tree. And it's 60 minutes of football, and anything can happen. And the Ravens saw that when they were the 1 seed on that Saturday night against the Titans to cap the 2019 season. So you have to be able, and I think Lamar talked about that a little bit before the playoffs this year, and they did beat the Steelers, but that game in Buffalo, they were the better team. They should have won that team. But I think there's something that is mental about your history, because it all magnifies and it all amplifies in that moment. And the more extensive your history of not getting through, the harder that is to overcome each passing year. So that's the key. They just need to have a level of confidence that carries from the regular season into the postseason where they completely forget about the past. And their attitude is, we're going to go out there and we're just going to take this. And and good luck getting guys, in their quiet moments not to think about the past. But that's going to be the key. Whether it's a group sports psychologist session or whatever, you got to get every key player to forget about the past and just focus on right now. And if they do that, they're good enough to make it to the Super Bowl and win it.
Yeah, the mental side, baseball, right? The connection there. there's so much analytics, and you can see how you do in the regular season. Sometimes a team gets hot, right, and they run the table. Baseball more than anything, just because you could sneak in the last spot, right, and then you get going. Football, yeah, there's a little bit of that momentum, but typically, if you're the better team, you should win. But the mental side's real, and you can't quantify that. And there is this mental block for the team to get over that hump. I was thinking back to teams when I was growing up, Mike. The Colts with Peyton Manning took a long time to break through. And I was actually at the game they beat the Ravens, where Peyton Manning and the Colts didn't score a single touchdown and won 15-6 in 2006. And a team that I think of, coached by Marty Schottenheimer, and the Chargers had some teams that I felt like would go, and then they'd get there, and they couldn't win that big game. It was always the Patriots. I blame Tom Brady for a lot of that, and Bill Belichick, Mike. It should be fun. The AFC North should be fun. Last football thing real quick. Is there anything – are we buying that Pittsburgh is – I have so much respect for Mike Tomlin and the Steelers, but with some of the moves, you're going for it now, but is it enough for you to overcome? If the Ravens are good, and the Bengals should be good, Chiefs and Bills should be good, the whole AFC West is better. I still have my doubts, even with them adding Aaron Rodgers, who no longer is the proven MVP he was, whatever it was now, 5 years ago, I believe, at this point in time.
Yeah, hey, Ryan, I've lived in and around Pittsburgh pretty much my whole life, with very small exceptions. And I've followed the Steelers as closely as I've followed any other team. I've never been a Steelers fan per se, but they're in your face all the time. When you're growing up, in the newspaper, it's always the Steelers. On the local TV stations, it's always the Steelers. They've never behaved this way in an offseason in the 50 years that I've known the Steelers. To go out and pay someone like DK Metcalf, trade for him and pay him a market value contract, $30 million a year, a guy who's never played for you before. They've never done that. The Aaron Rodgers pursuit and basically leaving it open-ended for 2 months. Their fans were mortified. This isn't how Steelers act. As Cam Hayward said, you either want to be a Steeler or you don't. And the impression that was created was Aaron Rodgers isn't really, into being a Steeler as much as he wants a good landing spot. It's very cynical and calculated. He's trying to get to a place where he has a better end to his career than he would have had with the Jets. The move, to trade George Pickens, who's a pretty damn good player, and I think the Cowboys are going to find out. The Jalen Ramsey trade, Jonnu Smith comes in. They're just acting in a way I've never seen before. But when you look at where they are right now, and you look at the rest of the conference, how will they? Because I think that everything they've done this offseason doesn't mean a damn thing if they don't win a playoff game. They haven't won a playoff game since January of 2017. And I think they're doing what they're doing to try to win a playoff game. Maybe they win a playoff game, but do we really think they're going to win the division with the Ravens and the Bengals in the division? I think that's an uphill climb. So you're going to have to go on the road and face a division winner like maybe the Texans or the Bills, or have to go to Baltimore again like they did last year to start the playoffs. And I think if they win one playoff game, okay, fine. That second playoff game, it's going to be a lot harder. Third playoff game, I don't know about that. But I think from Rodgers' standpoint, just getting to the playoffs is a nice way to get people to forget about his 2 lost years with the Jets. The Steelers, I think, though, desperately want to get that playoff win. I'd be stunned if they're the team that's left standing when the AFC Championship has ended. There are just too many great quarterbacks who are in their prime and too many great teams that the Steelers, I don't think, are good enough to compete with, even if Mike Tomlin is at his full and complete powers.
Yeah, I always, in my mind, expect Baltimore is going to lose in Pittsburgh because the weirdest things happen when they go to play the Steelers in Pittsburgh. But you're right. A lot of teams, a lot of competition. And even if they were to get hot and try to break through, there's so many obstacles to still overcome to try to get to where they want to go. And I still think, Mike, I never thought in my time that the AFC North would have Joe Flacco potentially starting, Aaron Rodgers starting, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. I don't know if that's going to be the best division of football, but I'll tell you what, there will be a hell of a lot of storylines as the season goes on. And I can't wait for it. And also can't wait. August 19th, book drops for, I had it right there. My bad. For Big Shield, but the ebook, 99 cents. That's the Mike Florio discount that you don't want to miss up on. And before you go, Mike, I ask people all these minor league stories, right? Because I love stories. We just had it, and for minor league players or guys who get to the pros, or sorry, not the pros. I hate that term because I played minor league baseball, and they said, "What's it like to almost make it to the pros?" I'm like, I didn't make it to the big leagues, right? Like, there's a difference. The guys in the bigs are really damn good. Something always happened on a bus, but you've been covering football and been around the game for long enough. Out of all your travels and experiences, is there any story that maybe sticks out to you of like, all right, like this is one I will never forget?
Well, there's the things I've witnessed and the things I've heard, and the things I can talk about and the things I can't talk about. And
fair enough.
Without having a chance to fully vet my options and run them by a lawyer, there's nothing crazier than that Love Boat scandal with the Vikings from 2005. And that kind of gets forgotten.
Yeah.
But that was weird. And there was a period of time where I thought people were going to be prosecuted because there was a question of whether or not prostitutes were brought across state lines. So you get into some trafficking violations, the Mann Act, et cetera. That was just nutty. And it makes you wonder how much other things like that may have gone on in the past that didn't explode thanks to the internet. And that was even before everybody was carrying around a camera and, Big Brother. Big Brother isn't the government. Big Brother is all of us. But that one is the one that is gonna be very difficult to top. And for more like that, I'll pitch my other book. This is my book from 3 years ago. This is the nonfiction book, Playmakers, that looks at the period of basically 2001 to 2021 in the NFL with all the crazy stories and all the things that have happened that I'm able to talk about. There's plenty of stuff I can't talk about, and some of that stuff makes its way into my fiction, but the stuff I can talk about is in Playmakers.
So check out Playmakers. It's already out. Big Shield. You can pre-order now, August 19th. The ebook, again, 99 cents, which is non-fictional, but you can maybe read between the lines on where some of the creative juices could have come from, Mike, is what you're kind of alluding to from your previous experiences.
That's right. Big Shield is fiction, but it may be based on some things I've seen, things I've heard, but more importantly, things that I believe could happen that are very plausible for the NFL. And, as much as I think the NFL is going to hate the book, I'd like to think at some level they recognize I'm doing them a favor, because to the extent players read the book and realize how that little thing that feels like no big deal can grow into some major problem, I'm just going to stay away from this. I'm not giving anybody any inside information. I don't care what they're offering me. I don't care what they want. I'm not saying anything to anyone about anything I know, because it can lead to all sorts of mayhem in my life. From that perspective, the NFL should like it if enough players become aware of it and read it.
Oh, there you have it. Well, Mike, I appreciate it. And for the socials, everyone can follow what's going on with Pro Football Talk. Any other places, there are things that you have upcoming?
We do a weekday show during the slow time, PFTPM, that's on YouTube, and we run a link to it at profootballtalk.com. PFT Live returns on July 28th. That's my show with Chris Sims on Peacock and Sirius XM 85. We do that 2 hours a day, every weekday, nonstop until things slow down. June of next year, we take a few weeks off, and then we do it again. The NFL, even when it's slow, it's never slow. We've got a full complement of stories about the NFL right now at PFT, and we'll continue to have it right up until training camps are open, and they're going to be opening very soon.
Yeah, it's right around the corner here. It's already July 9th, and soon enough, football will be back, not just for training camps, but then the regular season, which is going to be now under 2 months away. And Mike, whenever you need me, you let me know. I'll help be bodyguard or help to try to bring Chris down. You let me know. You have my number. We'll make it happen.
All right, man. Thank you.
All right, Mike Florio, appreciate you. Thank you. And check out Big Shield, by the way. And I loved, there's always a Baltimore connection, right? There always is. But with all those stories, the creativeness, And I mean, the point's right. You know, gambling's a huge part of things now, Zach. And
you don't say.
You don't say. I love that he brought up everyone thinks that the NFL's rigged. And I'm like, well, yes, they do. But if that was the case, would they ever let the Ravens win?
I was going to say, can we ever get in the storyline? Like, can we get, I like how you brought up, Tom, like, can if it's going to rig it, like, can we get some benefit? Like, I'm tired of being on the, why do we keep getting the heartbreak side of the rig? The missed field goals, the drop 2-point conversion, the Zay Flowers fumbled one. What, can we get the big time play for us to happen and then we get the Super Bowl? Like, when's that coming?
Just one time. That's all I'm asking for. Well, hey, you know what I'm also asking for? If you guys can hit that like and subscribe button. Ryan Ripken Show. We're live every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday right here on YouTube, X, and Facebook. And Zach, I think that does it for this time. I saw that the LeMahieu just got DFA'd, and I got to go talk about that and more. I'm doing pregame for Pickles. The Orioles are playing the Mets tonight at 7 p.m., so I'll be live from 6 to 7 on the Fan. Any other thoughts, concerns before I hop on out of here?
No, we'll be back for another exciting, more jam-packed episode tomorrow. It's been fun. I wasn't here yesterday, but watched it. What a great guest list we've had the past few days. We're keeping it rolling, so tune in tomorrow. And tune in to Kevin and Zach React tonight after Game 2 between the Orioles and Mets, live right after over on Kevin and Zach React. So if you haven't subscribed over there, do so. We'll see you then.
Yeah, and you know what? Might be seeing you tomorrow at Merritt. I'll let you guys know earlier in the day. We wanted to try to make it a little pool party, but we've had to reschedule so many times, shirts and pants. Hopefully tomorrow's the day. If not, we'll figure out a different time. We don't have the music, and it'll be off cue if we do it from 2 to 2 or 2 different people. So you can bob with us with the little do.
Bow, bow.
As always, here at the Ryan Ripken Show, we appreciate each and every one of you. Shout out Merritt Clubs for the support as always. But have a day, have a night, have a great stinking rest of your Wednesday, and we'll be back to do it all again tomorrow here on the Ryan Ripken Show. Enjoy Kevin and Zach React after the Orioles-Mets game. See you guys.